She's already Idaho's longest-serving Democratic representative when Sue Chu announced her retirement last summer. She was elected 9 times by Boise's District 17. Well, it wasn't long after that retirement announcement. In late 2023, Sue was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, which is why Representative Chu had several substitutes sit in for her this past legislative session while she was undergoing chemotherapy. Yesterday, just weeks after the end of her final session, Sue Chu passed away. People with disabilities, organized labor, farm workers, refugees, healthcare workers, the LGBTQ community, Chinese Americans. It's a long list, but those are just some of the Idahoans Sue Chu has stood up for over the years, not just at the State House, but in her everyday life because of what she had seen in her life. State flags are at half-staff today to honor Representative Sue Chu, someone who wasn't usually much louder than the wind, but she could also be just as strong.
I'm very beholden to my ancestors and the folks that come before me. I'm very aware of that on a daily basis.
Who Sue Chu was in Idaho can be traced back to who she was in California.
My dad was one of the very first Chinese lawyers in California.
A young Asian American growing up during the civil rights era.
As a first and second grader, I was beaten every day.
That wasn't going to stop her. She would graduate with a degree in pharmacy from the University of California and move to Idaho to specialize in geriatrics, a career focused on the forgotten, which is why she wanted to get into politics, winning a seat in the State House in 2006.
This is the nuts and bolts, so I'm taking really good notes and we're getting ready.
That short statement, that first day of orientation, would set the tone for Sue's tenure. Soft-spoken, if at all.
Sue was definitely a quiet leader.
But she never spoke a lot on the floor. She was not a person who gave big fiery debates on the floor, but she worked very quietly behind the scenes.
Representative Ilana Rubel.
And I'm an intellectual property attorney. I do copyright, patent, trademark work. So happy to be here.
Calls Sue her closest friend in the State House.
I'm Sue Chu, and I'm in the district right next to her. So
linked by legislative district and their location in the House Health and Welfare Committee for nearly a decade.
There were no multiple versions of Sue Chu. She was just super warm. She just had these eyes that looked at you and you just felt that she could feel everything in your soul and everything that you cared about and that she was right there with you.
And she was usually right there with the marginalized members of society.
So she was really very sensitive to the plight of those who were the underdog and who were experiencing discrimination in society. And I think she very much saw it as her role to fight for them. She was just a person of pure love.
But she one day came into my office bringing some lavender she'd picked, and so I could have something beautiful and fragrant on my desk.
Representative Lauren Necochea says Sue's thoughtfulness didn't stop with her colleagues.
She was just always thoughtful. She was always thinking about how to make the hard work we do around social justice more pleasant, and how do we take care of each other and the people we're trying to serve at the same time. When I think of Sue, I think of her moral clarity and her intellectual curiosity.
So with the idea of trying to consolidate all the foster care.
She wanted to know the details about how policies worked, but she never lost that emphasis on the heart and who would be impacted, how policies could help or hurt Idahoans. And she was always thinking about who could be most marginalized, who could be left behind, who is not being represented or not at the table.
And she wasn't afraid to go to other people's table.
She was really tremendous at activating the community. She knocked doors like nobody else.
To the chagrin of those who tried to follow in her footsteps.
Do you know Sue Chu? And I said, oh, yes, I know Sue Chu. Great person. And whatnot. She says, yeah. You know, when Sue Chu came to visit, she washed all my dishes. And
last month, Sue's fellow lawmakers honored her with a resolution for her 18 years as a representative.
And whereas Sue Chu's public service has been honored with various community awards.
While Sue sat in the gallery with her family, having just gotten out of the hospital where she'd been battling pancreatic cancer.
The House will be at ease while we say thank you to Sue Chu.
Oh, I'm going to miss her so much. I'm going to get too emotional, so I shouldn't talk more. Just her company and her warmth and her caring. I'm going to really miss her sitting at my side in committee. So she was a dear, dear friend.
Sue's legacy, perhaps best summed up by Sue herself.
Be open to folks that are different than you. And also, just love each other. We're not perfect, right? None of us are.
Representative Chu's legacy of door knocker was so ingrained within the party, such a part of the party. The Democratic Party started the Sue Chu Pioneer Push Fund. And any candidate who literally puts their boots or walking shoes on the ground and knocks on at least 1,000 doors is eligible for that fund. Because that's what Representative Chu believed is how you learned about your community and their needs. Sue Chu had just turned 66 2.5 weeks ago.